Good evening, everyone, and today, we will get acquainted with the domestic distribution of AltLinux 7. This version is a version on SID City with a graphical mate shell. This is a fork of GNOME 2, such a classic GNOME, which in turn probably looks very much like the classic Mac MacOS, not XNA, that is, not the 10th, but such a 9.8. The dwarf himself always reminded me. Well, let's not get away from the topic. Let's see what kind of distribution it is. The first thing I noticed was very high performance, ease, because the distribution is not overloaded with anything. No computer, we have a window manager here. More precisely, we have a classic Metacity engine, which was still in number 2. Here is the same one, probably the oldest, Nautilus 2 and 30, or 2 and 32, but here it is renamed to Caillou 1, 6 and 1. Here, the motos are not the freshest seems to be 1 and 8, or even still fresh, but this is a fairly stable version of 1 and 6. Everything works fine. In fact, the interface here is quite default, but there is all the necessary set of programs. In previous versions of AltLinux, they somehow usually pay more attention to CD than for distributions there. Let's say on GNOME or on XPS. Well, I'm looking here, let's say that I noticed such a nuisance. The unpleasant thing is that the icon theme does not display everything. You see, here, run it, see what it is. Well, I'm looking now. Well, first of all, what had to be done? Change the menu, for example, go to this menu item, properties, stupidly select manually. Well, apparently the developers were too lazy. You can any icon. Well, let's at least have one. Yes, look where else the joint is. Close plugins. We are looking. It is not displayed yet, or I have not applied it. Maybe I did not pay attention, I did not apply it, sorry. Well, it's all bullshit. So, this is the control center. Yeah, graduate. So, here we have a system control center, where you can configure the graphical interface, the user's network, the bootloader, hard drives, all sorts of things like that. There is an additional expert mode. Why am I talking about the top 10? Because, even the cursor is from her. In general, Unix graphical shells, I won't talk about everything, because let's say, they always tried to combine everything in one, but the GNOME took something from Windows, of course, in terms of their, let's say, parts of the interface, so that it was convenient for the Windows user. At the same time, it was also convenient for the user. Let's say it was convenient for the user, which went to the example there with McCoy. That's really GNOME 2, reminds me of the 9th McCoy. And everyone who sees McCoy says, damn, well, in general, these Macs are stealing. We have a GNOME interface there. Although by the appearance of the GNOME, probably even the first one already. Well, I will not give the first one, for example although yes, he is also somewhat similar to MacOS. From the time when there was already the first GNOME, it was probably in the 99th year, there was already the 8th MacOS, with which probably the interface was still a GNOME and Sliamzi. Although here you see, she has no global, there is no dock. Instead of a dock, there is a regular such panel. Okay, let's forget about it. Let's see the software they give you from the box, right? Here we have PED viewing, GIMP, and what and Maggie. Some kind of photo editor, very old. So, then here we have the components or the draft office. Then we have the viewing of Mate's eye images here. So, tools, and an archiver, a calculator. The truth is to take a screenshot. Network settings, a text editor. A fork of Godot Plum is called. Well, yes. It's Cordite. Then multimedia. Well, they clamped down on something with multimedia in general. They could even put at least some totem in there. Why didn't they put the totem in? It's a pity. So Flash. So what? The Office selection starts. Despite the fact that beta and stable, why didn't they stumble? 4, 1 and 3 is no longer a fresh version. Relatively, we could have already updated. About this, we turn on the update and see that either the Office is fresher here, that is, we are looking. Yes, there is an ordinary synaptic, and, as if through apt-get can be installed, that is, here is a package manager. A package management system, apt through apt as in deb. We are looking at which version that is possible here, that we have updated do not throw. Well, version 4.2 is already not bad. The distribution for the update is about as greedy as like Debian, but well, lately, the whole thing has been updated more often, which I think is very nice. Here, by the way, by default, there is even a native client with. So everyone, look at the sections right. In principle, everything is here. Here's any player. Let's say I drive to Lisi, no need for Velk approximately. Here are 2, 1 and 3. I take it and install it, and we won't have any problems watching the video. The Velk pulls all the necessary codes behind it. Let's take a look. The installation has started. It's nice that this is a domestic distributor, not overloaded with some crap. For a long time I sat on the Torah on the Debian. I sat that I had, as it were, one car on the Deb does not work. I've been sitting for a long time, probably most of all I was sitting on the Riot, of course, but the Riot somehow got a little heavier. Although it works stably and not bad, I'm talking about the else version, but these are in search, these are Amazon's, but in fact, against the background of all recent political events, they're a little annoying, because as you know, for example, some companies like Amazon or iBuyly do not even hide what they invest in. How would it be? Well, as you know, for example, I don't want to breed some shit right now, but what has happened now, what have they done? And when people don't hide that they invest this money, and when you use these services, I don't even buy something. It's just that even they are in your system, you understand that you contribute to this all. So, and at this moment, you just start to remember, why not try something else? Here is from Linux. This is a domestic normal Linux, which has been developing for many years. Despite the fact that they said everything on GNOME, AltLinux, or even on the same moat, is nonsense, well, you can see for yourself. Everything works fine, everything is fine. Here, of course, everyone recommends trying the CD version. CD on looked back from the time I first tried probably version 4.1.1, there he was really cool. These were Sneakers 3 and 5.10. Yeah, overpraised. We have an error, wrong address. Either I chose the wrong repositories or something else, but the package was installed, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is installed and it works. Everything is fine. That is, I did something with the repositories. As you can see, everything works fine. So, we are watching multimedia, we already have a player. Vels can be used as an audio player, as well as a video player. So, then, we have a full Office Libre package, a diagram editor, a dictionary, a program with a network, with an icon of this Mandri. So, Emina, I don't know what it is at all. So, we have the 24th, the last 31st in the updates, so you cannot worry that you will not have a fresh browser. Earlier, I remember, even in version 4.1.1, there was such a problem that I was sitting on the browser, probably 3.0, 12 or 14, and people were stupidly inventing, coming up with more precisely, well, how to update. Because updates appeared in the repository oh so rarely. I remember, probably, the open office of the second version. Probably there was horror there, I don't even want to remember. Here we have an additional console file manager, a good thing by the way, helps out if the Lixes fall. So, the Moat System Monitor. Note that this is how many there are. It's already got into the week. It's okay. It's all because of this, from the fact that I didn't start the Lynx program very well. Well, here I was told about the Apensu, that it is so beautiful, which did not even work on a gigabyte of RAM. Look, here's a mate, here's a single processor configuration, how much he uses devotedly processor in the configuration, how much he uses RAM, that is, put this distribution on about a dual-core processor, a computer with a dual-core processor, a gigabyte of RAM, some kind of video card 128 megabytes, and you get quite a smart machine. You can even say that you are resurrecting her, because he even throws out such things already. Put Vine, run a Windows Office, or already a LibreOffice user, is it quite normal? Here we have a Hyperd, my favorite program for breaking the disk. So, well, information about the distribution, terminal, installation of the installer on the hard disk. That is, you can look and install immediately. Here we have a transition, a quick transition to hard drives, a network. So, here are the parameters, the settings we have, the monitor setup, basically everything is like in number 2. Not much has changed. We have an RPM installation, a system control center, a Namovsky control center, probably an old classic, absolutely right. I think I'll still come back and show you the distribution on CD, as if most of all, of course, attention is not invested in it. Everything is pretty default here. Yes, good night.